to ban.
Well, it's been a long road for both of these teams, and just about to reach its conclusion, and it could potentially reach its conclusion in a very real way if LGD Gaming doesn't walk away with a win here. But day 2 just about in the books. Every team will have one more match remaining to be played tomorrow, but the bulk of the matches now behind us. The playoff picture has begun to take its shape, and Team Liquid, which I would honestly say is a surprise to many, is in really good shape to come out in the winners bracket, especially after downing LGD Gaming in their very first match here in this series, and now looking ahead to the second match. And really, it was just an immaculately drafted and well-executed series. LGD certainly put up a fight, some mistakes here and there, but Liquid really deserving all the credit for being able to capitalize on every opportunity they were given. And LGD wants to keep any hope alive of finding themselves in the upper brackets. So. And to that end, the Bat Rider going to be the first pick after some very quick bans coming out. If you're just tuning in, I'm AC, joined by Draskell, by the way. And again, last scheduled broadcast of the night. And tell you what, man, it has been a really fun 2 days. Exhausting. And I can only imagine how exhausting for these teams.
Oh, it's bad. Like, when you're in the competitive mindset all day, like 12, 13-hour days, and you're just playing and you're stressing about the games, it's probably one of the most exhausting things you can do, at least mentally. So for them, going on these sprees, you know, we say every once in a while, like, we're tired, but it's way worse for them, I'm sure. So for this game, LGD, like you said, they really have to win here. If they don't win here, I'm pretty sure they have absolutely zero chance of getting into the winners bracket. So this game is incredibly important to them. And even if they do win here, I think they have to rely on tomorrow, at least within their group right now. They would probably have to have Tongfu IG lose and then beat Liquid here.
Right.
That would pretty much be the way they actually get in. So the stars would have to align, but it is possible.
Right.
So Team Liquid, now the ball's in their court. They're going to go with Weaver and Visage. We haven't actually seen Weaver for a while, at least us personally. But it was a hero who was pretty popular, I think, on day 1. Day 2, maybe not quite as much, but Visage is a hero we see all the time. And, of course, Bat Rider being a fantastic initiator, and, of course, just an all-around awesome guy who has goggles and rides on a bat. So this game, LGD.int took away the Naga Siren and the OD, which I like quite a bit, because OD, I just wouldn't give it to Liquid, man. Like, it's just, they're so good with it.
They are. Well, it's what makes them good with it isn't just that the hero is good, and of course the hero is excellent at what the hero is built to do, which is capitalize on a one-on-one lane. Liquid just, and again, I kind of alluded to this during the draft in Game 1. Liquid just seems to excel with lineups that are very focused in what they need to do. And I don't mean narrow to the point, like not an all-in kind of a lineup like we saw out of Zenith in that series where we saw 2 very all-in lineups. Liquid, they'll have some flexibility and some versatility, but they'll be very narrow in ways that they can find success. They just have to execute 1 or 2 concepts extremely well, and they draft that way. And it's a very, the term I always use is thin. You don't have this big, robust feeling to your lineup. You don't have this feeling like you could just group up and rush down a lane and everything's going to be okay. And, we saw that kind of out of LGD. LGD had a much more robust lineup in game number 1, but Liquid, again, using that quintessential style of theirs where they have to apply pressure in a certain way. They have to make the use of heroes with very good judgment, with very good communication and teamwork. That tends to be more of a surgical style, is the way Liquid tends to play, and for that reason, I love what they're picked up here. These are 2 heroes that fit into that extremely well in the Weaver and the Visage.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Liquid's lineup is that it's open. And open lineups I'm always a fan of. Like, no matter what. When you pick a team with a Visage and a Weaver, the Weaver can go mid, he can safe lane 1v1, he can tri-lane, off-lane, whatever, right? And Liquid have picked a team where the Bat Rider can kind of do the same thing, but the Dragon Knight is more refined in what he actually does. And the goal of the Dragon Knight is always the same. It's always try to fight mid-game, it's always try to go for towers with your ulti whenever it's off cooldown. So at the very least, LGD have shown a little bit of their hand, whereas Team Liquid, we don't really know exactly what their game plan is going to be just yet. And the more ambiguity you have in your picks, the easier it is to counter what the other team's trying to do. And you can see Team Liquid, they know that the DK is definitely part of the death ball push, so they've taken away the Chen, of course, in the first 2, but they're going to take away the Enchantress now, and they don't want to give LGD any more AoE teamfight composition either, so to take out the Gyro. And Liquid actually going to pick out a Shadow Demon, who we don't really get a chance to see that much anymore, but he is really darn good against Batrider, of course, because you can disrupt lassos, and Soul Catcher is great for eating through those tanky heroes like DK.
Oh yeah, DK also a hero that... Shadow Demon, like you said, he's going to be great in this lineup for a variety of reasons, but against these two heroes in particular, being able to disrupt and prevent the lasso drag after the Batrider tosses it out, being able to use the Demonic Purge on Dragon Knight too. When he has his Elder Dragon form, what you want to be able to do is not necessarily kite him because he's ranged, but just lock him in place. Make sure that you can focus fire him and bring him down as quickly as you can, because again, he is that anchor kind of a hero. He tends to manage team fights, especially as the game gets later and later. LGD, though, going to go ahead and snatch up that Razor pick that we've been seeing on and off throughout the day. Tell you the truth, though, like looking at that Razor off the bat, I mean, there just isn't that usual hero that you see and go, well, obviously that's why you picked Razor. Like, obviously you pick Razor because you want to isolate him one-on-one versus a lone Druid, or because he's one of the few heroes that can hang and bang with an OD in mid. Just don't really see that right now coming out of this, unless the plan is just to try and tether the Weaver, or to static link the Weaver.
Well, static linking a Weaver is really hard because A has Shikuchi and B has time lapse, so that's going to be a little bit tough. But my guess is that they have a Batrider and they have a DK whose both disables are quite long. Like a lasso, even at level 1, is 3 seconds, and Dragon Tail scales all the way up to, I think, 3¼ seconds at max rank. So he'll have some ways of being able to get a link off, but even if he gets disrupted, the link still goes through. So it's more of a deterrent and stopping a chain of initiation. Like you start draining somebody's damage, and you say, look, if you keep going, you're going to take a lot of damage back because I'm going to take all of yours and we're going to turn it around. That's kind of what role Razor plays in most games anyway. Sure, he can be a lane dominator, but he can also be the hero in team fights that can turn things if the other team starts to play over-aggressive and don't respect static link. And with heroes like they have, like Weaver, who Shikuchi in and want to like go past people and then try to attack them from behind, you can't really do that against a Razor. So Liquid, they're going to go ahead and answer out with the Beastmaster, which I do like because it's some counter initiation again against the Batrider, and they already have a Shadow Demon on top of that, so they have a plethora of ways of dealing with him already. The one question is now, what role is that Beastmaster going to be playing? Is it going to be Bulba in the 1v1, or are we going to be looking at a tri-lane of Weaver Visage Shadow Demon and then a mid, or are we going to see something else?
I mean, again, taking a look at Liquid's lineup, one big concern I have right now, their damage is very particular. You know, and maybe particular is not the word. That's just the word that jumps to mind. Weaver's going to give you some single-target physical. You're going to get some single-target magic out of Visage. Get a little AoE magic out of Weaver for a bit. Some decent composite damage. But these are all like they're like icing spells. Like, those are spells that you incorporate into your team fighting, you know, until Weaver gets built anyway. And Visage, of course, in conjunction with other heroes, is excellent at blowing up squishier heroes. But it's still reliant on damage getting done in the first place because of the way that Soul Assumption works to begin with. Whenever I compare that to what I'm already seeing out of LGD, just these bigger, burstier spells that are going to be tough for some of these heroes to deal with. I mean, just even the Firefly damage from Batrider, Flame Break damage is not to be underestimated. Then you're going to have Breathe Fire. Then you're going to have Plasma Field out of Razor. Rubik, a great support to fit in here because there's a lot of good spells for him to steal. A Weaver, or a Rubik who can steal Shikuchi from Weaver is just the most annoying, unbelievably difficult thing to deal with in history, to say nothing of Beastmaster's Roar, which is one of the easier spells to steal, or at least easier big initiation ultimates. And yeah, I mean, again, like, I'm really curious how Liquid's gonna roll this out. That Beastmaster, usually when you see Bulba on it, he will run it mid and can run it mid. But it seems like Liquid just needs something else, something punchier, some bigger, badder hero that's going to allow these other heroes they've drafted to complement that hero.
Yeah, I agree with the whole mentality of Liquid has a lot of complementary spells, but nothing really that's a core burst.
Right.
But that's why I'm kind of leaning towards picking maybe, oh wow, Murata. I was going to say, they need somebody who does have burst and some form of initiation, like maybe a Puck or a Queen. That's kind of what I was leaning towards. But they're going to go with the Murata instead. So Murata is a hero who does have a significant chunk of her own burst, and it's really easy to line up arrows with Disruption. It's like one of the coolest things ever, and plus you can roar into an arrow and things like that. Plus, her ultimate, ever since they changed the mana cost, you can actually get Moonlight Shadow now and not feel like you're always out of mana. That was the big problem before, because I think it used to cost like, what, 150 or 175 or something crazy like that.
So high.
And you would use it and be like, all right, I'm coming, but I'm out of mana. So I just ulted. But yeah, it's actually very disruptive during team fights. And even if a team does buy detection, it's still forcing that team to spend money on sentries and dust to make sure that they can actually take the fight. So LGD.int, they got one more to pick here. We're not sure where the Razor's going yet. It could be the DK mid, and it looks like it's actually going to be a Bane. So it's going to be the Nightmare Link into Telekinesis tri-lane versus the very high mobility with the Shadow Demon and Burst composition of a Visage tri-lane. So it's going to be interesting. Or they could just put TC in an off lane and do the Mirana Shadow Demon Visage lane too, which would be incredibly potent as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a lot of flex in both of these lineups. I really do like the way... Like, the Mirana pick is certainly a little unexpected. Korok does play a mean Mirana, though. I've seen him play Mirana a number of times. Usually when I've seen him play it, though, it was with a Treon team. Mirana just is made so good in terms of her mid-game carry potential being shored up by having a tree, but obviously that's not the case here. But yeah, like you said, there's so many ways, and you know, not even just the roar or even the disruption. Hell, Visage's Grave Chill is going to make it extremely easy to line those things up. And what it's going to come down to, I think, is very judicious usage of Mirana's ulti. Mirana's ulti is one of those spells that it works extremely well in a team fight. It's very easy to forget sometimes that, you know, as broadcasters, whenever you watch these fights that have Mirana's ulti active, it isn't just that it's a free smoke, and it often functions that way. But if it's in a team fight, these supports that are squishy, unless there's detection, they just need to stand still for a few seconds, and now they're invisible again. It can be very, very confusing to fight a team when that spell is active if they're intentionally abusing that and trying to make you change focus and change targets. Now, LGD and Liquid both moving towards the same piece of real estate, it would seem. Liquid near the Ancients, and LGD going to run right through the jungle. Let's see if they decide to cross the river, and they will. Fluff's going to be leading with his nose here. And he's going to be spotted from the high ground. Up. Not quite. Not quite. Nope, looks like they are. They are going to go ahead and double back around. This could be very bad. Here we go. They're going to jump right on him. There's a Dragon Tail to lead off. Good disruption to keep him alive. Now God is actually the one that's losing static link onto Korok, but First Blood goes to TC. And just the strength of Visage in general showing itself. He ends up paying the price for it, though, 1-for-1 currently. A lot of stacks of sticky napalm, allowing this Bat Rider to do an immense amount of damage. 2 for 2. 4 kills, make it 5. No, actually, TC already with a magic stick. Not quite enough to get him to safety, but bought him some time. Misery has Brain Sap skilled instead of Nightmare, so unable to lock Korok down and allow the fight to continue. But as the horn blows, we're pretty deep on the kill count. 3-2. First Blood goes to Liquid, but LGD gets one more than they do.
Yeah, LGD barely inch him out right there. The unfortunate part is that I actually think that Liquid were the ones who got First Blood there, not LGD.int. So even though they got an extra kill, they weren't the recipients of the First Blood, and both carries ended up 2-1.
Yep.
So it's like almost an identical trade, barring the fact that Liquid got First Blood and LGD.int got one more kill. That's about as close as you're going to get, actually, for these early game engagements. But the one other thing that's important to keep in mind is that the supports are still level 1 on the side of Liquid. Whereas 1437 is going to be level 2 pretty much immediately, and so is Misery. So if they want to take advantage of that level 2, that's going to be very quick, they can just force a fight straight after.
We're going to have another try-on-try, very aggressive lane. Going to be 2 melee heroes trading blows here in mid. Should do pretty well for both, should not be too difficult for either one. TC versus Brax here. This is an interesting matchup. No sentries in Brax's inventory.
Bottom.
So up, down at bottom. They're going to go ahead and engage again. We're going to have Misery trying to brain sap through it, and one more auto attack's enough to bring him down. Korok going to be slapped once with the whip. Pycat going to chase him down. Got way too far up. They're going to get fluffed with the plasma field. Can they get the return kill? They can. Yep, they will find him. The arrow off the mark, but now 1437 is going to have telekinesis. He has a Fade Bolt already, disrupting to buy some time. That actually is just going to allow the Nightmare. Now 1437 can't telekinesis him. Not going to worry about it. Just going to auto-attack him down. 9 kills are on the board in 1.5 minutes. 9 kills in 90 seconds. We're averaging a kill every 10 seconds so far. And yeah, just finished saying that this try-on-try, and never mind, we're not done yet. Weaver decides he's going to dive a Bad Rider as a one-on-one Weaver and somehow find a kill behind his own tower.
Yeah, this game is completely insane. Like, There are more kills than creep kills right now. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
I don't even know what else to say outside of that. But this tri-lane bottom, it's hard to really tell who's getting the edge. Korok living, he did have to use his regeneration, of course, to make sure that he didn't die to Pycat's extra auto. And because Pycat didn't hit level 2 by the time they went on him, he couldn't use Plasma Field either up until that point. So it actually was kind of a bummer for LGD.int because they should have technically come out ahead during that trade, but didn't. And now it's a little bit hairy for both sides, and top lane's obviously doing well because TC just got a solo kill on the bat, and Brax actually decides to just leave the lane completely. He's not even going to go back. He's just going to let him totally free farm.
That's interesting. And, you know, I mean, I honestly didn't see what happened, but TC bullying him around and Brax having enough of it. It might partly be motivated just by wanting to have the ability to do what he's doing now, which is just drift over and try to abuse this tri-lane even more. Liquid, let's see. He is going to go ahead and grab the camp as he drifts over. We'll see if he's actually going to show up. Now, between Telekinesis and Nightmare, they have the ability to set up some pretty ugly situations for Liquid. He's hanging around up. He is just going to focus on farming, it would seem, at least for the moment.
Yeah, both solos are doing pretty poorly right now for LGD, and the Beastmaster just died. One versus, or no, the Beastmaster just got a kill on Dragonite, sorry, 1 versus 1, so the Beastmaster's winning, and Korok is in no man's land right now.
There's a disruption, now he's going to be static linked. He has lost all of his damage, he can do nothing but leap away. Plasma Field tracks him down, though. And Liquid, oh, nice Nightmare. Let's see if they want to try to nope, no telekinesis off of it. Just going to let the damage go full, and with all that right-click, Pycat swiped. Can they get him? Pycat said to hell with it. Plasma Field gets him right at the edge of the radius. And Pycat living life large on the Tin Man. 4 and 2. And again, we are not even 4 minutes into this game. 13 kills already tallied.
Yeah, this is maybe most action-packed game of the tournament so far, I think. Probably.
Gotta be.
I would hope so. If there's more kills than this, I don't even know what to say. That's gotta be some kind of record. But interestingly enough, Korok is maxing Arrow. He is not going for any points into Starstorm. He actually just got one now at level 4 as he hit it. But the weird thing about maxing Arrow, it might have just been a misclick, honestly, because your 100 bonus damage from Sacred Arrow doesn't scale. It's just based on distance no matter what level it is, and you only get 90 extra damage, whereas Starstorm, you basically get more. In mid, we're going to see G die again.
And they're not done. Telekinesis on Bulba, but Liquid doing the job. 7-7, an absolute slugfest. I'm at 5. Usually I don't want to check the goal graph or the experience graph until late, but hell with it. Yeah, it's actually pretty close. 500 in favor of Liquid right now. Same on both metrics. But yeah, this is, I mean, but to me, this is the kind of style that I think Liquid thrives in most of the time. And LGD just doing a good job on their own, and really Pycat being the leader down and just being the chieftain of this bottom lane is the one making all the difference.
It's really just difficult to engage in a static link. And like we were mentioning during the draft, it's about how heavy you commit to a fight more than it is how mobile your heroes are. So when somebody gets caught really out of position and somebody's forced to disrupt defensively and that person's linked, the link damage still gets taken away. So there are situations where Liquid have just been overcommitting a tiny bit, and now the tri-lane of LGD is starting to come out a bit ahead, even though the solos are not doing well at all. I mean, G is 0-3 right now. That is definitely not where he wants to be. And Brax, of course, died 1 versus 1 against TC. So, and you know, I want to point this out. TC went Midas. Like, that's some gusto. I'm gonna point that out. And there's also a triple smoke here from Liquid.
Celebratory Midas is what we call it. And Liquid gonna try to make something happen. Get a little more. Oh, gee. Well, oh, gee. There it is. Arrow. Arrow-tude. G. Gotta be cleaned up. And yes, I did totally just make a Teen Girl Squad reference. Anyone who gets that, you are now my biggest fan. But 8-7. Liquid once again bringing down the Dragon Knight. And you know, DK is one of those heroes. You know, he's so survivable that you don't see it all that often. God, they're gonna smoke again. Liquid is not letting up at all, and they're going to have a chance to give the old okie doke here to LGD, who is trying to push the tower. They're going to catch him between a tower and a hard place as Bulba leading the way. He's got Roar. He'll spin it on Pycat. He's going to be telekinesis immediately. Nightmare on Pycat, but the arrow connects nonetheless. Soul Assumption gets the kill. They're going to try to engage behind it. Fluff going to be traded away. Starstorm doing good damage. They lose Rubik. They're going to continue to chase this out. Here comes G, who has had such a horrible game so far. Brax laying a trail of fire to try to cover his escape. G barely going to be able to make it away, bottling through a lot of that damage. But they managed to get 2 unanswered, bringing down both Pycat and the Rubik. Brax really did, tried to do everything he could. But Liquid, you know, they just feel up. Heard a Dragon Tail. That'll be on IX Mike. They're going to try. Nope, not going to try to pursue it too much. This bottom lane is just a killing field, man. This is like the 3rd game of the day where the bottom lane just becomes like this massive murder field.
It feels like the pub games that I stream, man. Like, I always get mad because it's like 2 minutes into my game, I have 5 heroes in my lane. This is pretty much exactly what's happening in this match. And this is a TI3. So clearly I missed the memo. I guess playing 5-man Dota is just the way to go nowadays. But it's kind of going even-ish. Liquid are getting a slight advantage, but it's not huge. And top lane Fluff is having a really sad time right now. Goodbye, sir.
Pycat able to... Pycat is hitting for 264 damage because of Static Link. Just want to, you know, toss that out there. 264 is how much he was hitting a level 5 level 5 Visage for. That, yeah, that it's hard. It's hard being a winged Gravekeeper.
Radiant's top tower.
Dirt birds are rough, man. It's really difficult, but it's a kill that they desperately need. Like, every single time that LGD.int get even a little bit back, since the lead of Liquid isn't that big, it's going to get their footing back in good place. The big problem right now is that this Dragon Knight is like a non-factor. There is nothing that G has been able to contribute so far in the game, and it's not necessarily his fault. He technically got triple smoke ganked twice, and I mean, that's pretty difficult to avoid. And during the skirmish in the jungle where the first blood was given away to Liquid, I believe he was actually the one who got first blooded. So all in all, LGD aren't in horrendous shape, especially since their supports are so high level, but I guess that's what happens when you have 19 kills in a 9-minute game.
Right.
Your supports hit 6 before the 10-minute mark. And Fluff and Stuff is actually a bit behind, and so is Shadow Demons. So I actually think that in a way, LGD are ahead in terms of experience, not because of the sheer number, but because of who has the experience on their team.
19 kills in a 9-minute game. We slowed up. We went from a kill every 10 seconds to 2 kills every minute. So progress is being made, peace is being achieved, and diplomatic relations have resumed, at least for the moment. We can see the lead relative lead to each other is still very, very small. Anyone's game at this point. G and his horrendous start sitting at 1-4 right now is going to be an ongoing story, though. You don't pick a Dragon Knight for him to not be a face tanker. Like, that's just what he does. It's what he's built to do. And to do that, you do need some kind of an item, even if it's a Shadow Blade to get you into range, or if it's a BKB or something. So that's going to continue to be a problem. Pycat has made up for it to a certain extent, sitting at 5, 3, and 4. He's level 8, maxed out Static Link. And yeah, it looks like they're ready to just go ahead and try to push this down. They will end up trading at least one Tier 1 for this Tier 1 mid. They do have Glyph if they want to spend it. And the Tier 1 bottom drops in the meantime. Glyph has been used. No TP quite yet. Korok poking his nose around the secret shop, or the Roche pit, I should say. And back to TC. TC's Midas certainly paying off for him, I'm sure. And yeah, he's about 2,000 gold ahead right now of the next highest farmer on the board, which is Pycat, which doesn't sound like that much till you realize Pycat's entire net worth is 3,700.
Yeah, it's more like he's almost doubling him
right
instead of 2,000. They're going to initiate on mid, though. Is there an arrow here?
No arrow this time around. Korok could not get his feet set, apparently. Now they're going to go ahead and engage on the Bulba. Bulba caught on. He has Roar. The arrow's actually going to go through and connect on G. Korok, though, locked down. Feeds grip. Well executed by Misery. And the lasso not quite used. A lot of damage done there by Soul Assumption, however. There was actually a buyback from the Beastmaster that time. Bulba not happy. He didn't get to yell at somebody, so he buys back to go yell at him even more. And TC manages to track a kill down somewhere. Not sure where. Looks like he, manages to track the Bat Rider down in the river. But same story as always, right back where we started. All tied up, making 11-11 at 11 minutes and 17 seconds.
Half-Life 3 confirmed.
That's right.
You heard it here first. I mean, 1 plus 1 plus 1 times 1 a bunch is 3. Half-Life 3. Anyway. I think the the Midas BKB rush on the Weaver is going to be pretty good, considering how much magic damage LGD are really relying on, and they're probably not going to be linking the Weaver a whole lot. So I do enjoy that choice from him. But LGD are still looking pretty solid. I mean, they get the tier 1 mid before the tier 1 in their mid drops, and even though their safe lane tower is dead, there's a lot of wasted warding here coming out from Liquid so far. Like, if you look at the wards bottom, they're not really covering a whole lot of useful areas. I mean, it's like no one's on that side of the map anymore. But G might be heading there now because he's a poor, lowly Dragon Knight who can't really do anything but farm a lane where nobody's actually at. There was something else I wanted to mention too. Oh yeah, the Razor? What is with people not getting their ultimates today? Eye of the Storm is good. Like, Eye of the Storm and Plasma Field are good skills. You should level them. I am, like, mind blown at some of these games.
I'm going to guess he just wants to be able to hustle. He likes to keep his legs churning pretty quick under that little dress, putting points instead in unstable current. Can't be wasting no point on Eye of the Storm when you got more points to make you faster. But the bottom tower will end up dead, as will the top. So trading of towers, we're beginning to see just how much push power Liquid really does have. Liquid has a deceptive amount. Oh, the arrow. Oh, it does connect, but a little too far away. Nope, never mind. They're going to roar him anyway. He is going to be nightmared, trying to bail him out. He comes out pissed off and shows it with the plasma field. Mike getting Fiend's gripped, and the Soul Assumption doing good damage, but to a full health target, so unable to follow it up. There's going to be a Dragon Tail on the Fluff and stuff. TC's right there, doesn't matter. Fluff just doing auto attacks as best he can. Just heard the lasso after a Blink Dagger pickup. That dagger brand new, and Brax happy to show it off for the first time. Pycat giving chase to Korok. Korok has his ulti if he feels like he needs it. Brax can do nothing but slow him with sticky napalm. Doesn't look like he wants to spend it. And, oh, yeah, he does. And he's actually gonna be caught out anyway. He can follow him. He's got Static Link. My God, I can't get that out. But nonetheless, crazy action continues. And continuing right on pace with that 2 kills per minute clip we've seen so far. Neither of these teams really much into strategic Dota.
Well, it's more like, we're going to see you and fight you, Dota, which I'm perfectly okay with. Like, high kill games, I'm down.
Oh, yeah.
They keep my attention much more than the LGD China games where you know they're not going to lose, and they still drag the game out for 30 more minutes anyway.
Yep.
I would much prefer this style of play, so I just really freaking wish that Pycat would skill his ultimate at least. Like, man, minus armor, the damage that it does, it synergizes well with Static Link. I get why he wants to go unstable current because he wants to move faster, but Plasma Field as a nuke too scales pretty darn well, and nobody on the side of Liquid really has that much health. Like, having an extra nuke that hits for what, level 1 is 160 max and level 4 is 370, 200 damage difference is pretty significant.
Maybe he's photosensitive. I've heard that really messes with photosensitive people. I'm not trying to be facetious, I've actually heard that. So, much love to my photosensitive brothers and sisters. I got your back. Here we go, they're gonna go ahead and lasso Korok out. Pull him back, and Plasma Field gonna be enough to grab him. Fiend's Grip on Mike for the second time in a row. Opting to use Fiend's Grip on IX Mike. So they end up grabbing 2 at LGD. Banging away now on the tier 2. This will be their 3rd tower if they do manage to get it. Not a lot of ways for Liquid to contend down a man in TC. Able to get away nonetheless. 1437 went fishing, but unable to lock it down. So LGD turning this gold around. Still an absurdly close game. I mean, whenever you have games that are this high kill, it tends to be very volatile. It tends to be one team, you know, even if the other team has a bunch of kills, the games just tend to be so volatile. The towers and Roshans die all the time, and one team tends to come out with a pretty considerable lead. Not the case in this one. We're talking, yeah, just swung back across the middle line for the first time in about, I don't know, 12 minutes or so. And even then, only 500 now in favor of LGD after that huge win.
It's still way too close to call, honestly. There's going to be way more fighting before anybody has a discernible lead. And they're going to be going for Roshan right now, and there are wards on either side of Roshan, so I'm pretty sure that LGD should know about this, and I'm assuming that they're going to be wanting to fight, but G is a little bit far away. Oh man, the Bat Raider has a haste. That could be huge. They could pull somebody so far out of position here.
Throws out the flame break, and Brax hanging around, waiting on Lasso. He's going to blink to the high ground. There's the haste, and he's going to go for it. Roshan pretty low. He may go for the steal. He's thinking about it. Nope, down goes Roshan, picked up by Weaver, so before you can do anything to get in there, now they're going to pop the ulti. And just slowly back out. And Brax must have gotten cold feet on that one. He's going to try to TP away, but disruption is there. Haste rune, not going to help. I don't know what happened with Brax there. That just thought he was going to go for a steal, thought he was going to try to grab someone, and in the end, he just flew in circles and ended up dead.
Well, he got Demonic Purge, so it took off the haste, and I mean, I really thought he would just go in from the one side, like the side that's closest to LGD side of the map, because you can just get vision with Firefly and potentially initiate, grab somebody, and just run with it. But that didn't quite happen, so Liquid, they gave away a little bit a while ago during the last fight mid, but now they've gotten it all back and then some. So I think they're going to be quite pleased with the result of that team fight, and of course being able to get Roshan on top of it. The weird thing though is that TC is going that I'm going to buy one of each item in the game build, and he just picked up an Ultimate Orb and an Ogre Club, and now he's decided that he just wants to go with Lincoln's instead of the BKB because he's honestly feeling like he doesn't need the BKB, which is fine, because if he does a little bit more damage from the Lincolns, it gives you better sustain to stay out in the map. You don't have to base as much. It's not a horrible choice. It's just kind of funny to see somebody who just buys an Ogre Club and an Ultimate Orb.
Well, it makes a lot of sense to switch to the Link instead of the BKB. I mean, BKB is a one-time, you use it and you've got a few seconds of magic immunity, whereas look at LGD and what most of their spells that are really going to scare that Weaver happen to be. What are you scared of? You're scared of Lasso, you're scared of Dragon Tail, you're scared of Static Link, you're scared of Telekinesis, you're scared of Fiend's Grip. All abilities that you want the enemy to not want to use without trying to pop your Lincolns. And even if you have to use one of those or force them to use one of those to pop the Lincolns before they can do anything to you on a single target basis, that's a win, because every one of those abilities is essential to LGD International's ability to team fight. So switching to the Lincolns, I can totally get behind that just for repeated use and a repeated annoyance. Looks like Liquid is moving into position, and they lost their tier 1 top, but not going to pursue out too much. LGD spoiling for a fight, however. Brax poking his nose around, and he's going to go ahead and grab IX Mike. There's going to be the roar to lock him down. Disruption might have bought him a little bit of time. Very weird fight. We're going to see a Nightmare on Brax. Brax might die in it. Well, actually, Mike does end up dead, regardless. And the rest of them pull back. Very non-committal kind of a battle there. It just felt a reluctant battle on both sides. It was almost like Bad Rider Brax just decided he wanted to fight and nobody else agreed with him.
And that wasn't going so bad either for LGD.int. I mean, honestly, the BKB was still up on Pycat. He didn't even use it, actually. He still got 10 seconds. And the roar was down. They probably could have continued to fight that, but they just wanted to play it safe because TC has an Aegis. They don't want to commit to a fight like that and then end up getting punished too hard. So they'll just deal with the support kill, back up, and do their own little farming thing, which is fine. The Aegis only has 3 minutes left, so Liquid definitely want to try to push in. They want to try to make something happen, maybe get the second tier tower in the bottom lane, which is where they're heading. And 1437 is lucky man that he had that Invis rune.
Oh yeah, he has Shikuchi as well. He was, well, there we go. We're going to see Pycat just wander into a world of pain. BKB showed off. They're going to go ahead and Telekinesis one. Fluff and stuff dropped to the ground. Ends up dead. Pycat still alive and fighting. We're going to see the dust go off to try and catch anyone out. Liquid loses too. And this is a game that feels like it has been going for 40, not 20 minutes because of the number of kills that are on the board. A lot of back and forth, and neither team really finding the ability to edge each other out. I mean, right now, LGD leads in kills, but again, the other objectives have gone in favor of Liquid. So yeah, taking a look at the goal graph, dead even. The experience, just about dead even.
It's just no team wants to concede anything. Like, they want to fight. Liquid wants to push. LGD aren't going to let them. The Roshan fight was actually the least commitment I've seen out of LGD in terms of them wanting to defend something the entire game. And I really thought when they picked up the haste they would go for that, but they just didn't, which was weird. But Liquid's still looking to be in really good shape just because of how incredibly farmed TC is. But they need to remember that TC's net worth is doubling his own teammates. So he's the only one who really has that kind of farm, and they keep ignoring him. I mean, honestly, TC doesn't have a flat damage item yet, so he's not a gigantic threat. He still hits relatively hard, but it's not like he has an MKB or something and he's two-shotting supports. He's just really hard to kill, and he does a moderate amount of damage. Sooner or later, he's going to get to that point where you have to focus him, or he's just going to rip through your team. Yep.
Right, and right now, like you said, is we're implying this is the time that you really want to be abusing him and trying to hold him down. He's really hard to kill, and that sucks, but the only thing that sucks worse than that, he's really hard to kill, and like you said, he's going to be able to 2- and 3-shot supports because of Geminate attack and the fact that he builds a Desolator or something. So Aegis will be reclaimed in 60 seconds. Liquid trying to bait something out. 1437 comes up and manages to steal Shikuchi, and it's race car wars. That's how it always feels whenever you see a Weaver chasing after a Shikuchi to Rubik. But they are going to decide to show their face, show the flag a little bit here in top lane. Up, check that. Korak has better things to do. Going to head back to mid and go about being cool.
I like being cool. It's something that I strive to do. I'm probably not so good at it anymore. I don't know. I used to be when I was younger, but I'm getting old now. We're old in esports.
Oh, God.
But
don't remind me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's bad. But I wanted to point out that 1437 has a gem. So they can do de-warding. I'm surprised he didn't catch that ward in the top lane. Maybe it was placed after he had already left. But when you get an early gem like this and you have a support who has that kind of mobility, it's really nice because you can feel very safe and being able to de-ward on your own. Like, if you're going to get roared or something crazy like that, then that's one thing, but there's no blink initiator on the side of Liquid, so he's feeling relatively confident in that he can just do his de-warding, carry the gem, have high mobility, and not be the one who ends up dying. He's actually only died once.
Okay.
In a game where his team has 13 deaths, he's only one of them on a support Rubik.
That's actually a fantastic point. I mean, 10 and 4 on Pycat certainly leading the way, but that's honestly as impressive as that. A support Rubik is, generally speaking, I mean, having a positive KD in a game like this, especially where it's just been nothing but absolute madness from the moment we got started, more than a little bit to be proud of there. Net worth for the Weaver continuing to climb higher and higher. And, I mean, at this point, it's just so hard to even look at this. It's just both teams are... What they're doing is just taking 5-mans. Like, there's no super huge intricacy really to talk about. It's just they're both really good at taking 5-man fights. And that's kind of what their goals have been. Take some 5-mans, push, kill a Roshan once in a while. Now we're going to see Liquid responding to this Tier 2 top. And Dragon Knight, level 2 ulti, as he is level 11. Does not have his BKB, but does have a Shadow Blade. Liquid popping the glyph, so they do want to contest it. Korok, level 11, can TP him when he wants, can pop his ulti whenever he wants as well. And LGD feeling a little bit squeamish about committing too heavily. This is, the top tier 2 is so hard to push into because there's so much space behind it for the enemy team to spread out and find an optimum angle of attack. But they're just going to take it in. Liquid actually just is not going to care. That's pretty surprising.
Well, I mean, it is risky to engage, and oh man, 1437 really wants Shikuchi. He just always steals it on cooldown. He does not want to give away a spell with that kind of mobility when he's carrying a gem. So Liquid, they give up the tower, but it's something that I think was the right call, just because they're relying so much on arrows landing and Beastmaster Royals hitting the right target to make sure that they can win the team fight, whereas LGD.int, they have a lot of heroes who can actually just cause havoc in the fight in general, like a Bat Rider continuously stacking Napalm. They can isolate heroes on their own.
Right.
They have good counter initiation. They have Fiend's Grip. There's a lot to account for. So it's an unknown who's going to get the better of the team fight, and a lot of it depends on initiation. And if you have a gem on 1437, how the heck can you get good initiation if you're relying on things like Mirana ulti or an arrow to start a fight?
Both teams kind of deciding to take a breather for the moment. The map control war definitely going the favor of LGD Internationals. They still have 3 towers still standing, all of which have been relatively untouched. But their jungle feeling fairly open as well. And, that's just one of those things that right now we can see both teams kind of prioritizing that real estate. 3 heroes near the jungle, a / mid lane for LGD, and Liquid spreading out to make sure they maintain some cohesion on their side of the map. This is one of those games that, as high octane as it's been, when you see a game start out like that, you can see it ending at like 30 minutes. But the longer this game goes, the more I think we might really be in for a long one.
It's definitely possible. Right now, neither team has decided to fight for quite a while. We've gone from a kill every, 9 seconds or something crazy to 31 kills in a 25-minute game. That's looking to be pretty standard. I mean, by most people's account, this would still be fairly action-packed.
Oh, yeah.
But by the first 20 seconds of the game, definitely not action-packed in comparison to that. And TC finally finishes up his BKB, which I think is probably going to be Liquid's go-ahead to start playing a bit more aggressive. LGD.int's team is still primarily comprised of heroes who only do magic damage, especially the Rubik, the Bane. Even Dragon Knight adds his own nuke, and of course Bat Rider. But the later the game goes, Pycat and the Dragon Knight are going to start adding more and more. And since the Weaver has gone 2 defensive items now as opposed to a Linken's and a damage item, he's still not that big of a threat.
Right. And yeah, this kind of plays into what I was talking about with Liquid's lineup, and they're kind of doing it more. Hang on, Arrow. Ooh, barely missed. Hits the creep. And Liquid up. Hang on, we're going to have a lasso that's going to drag back Mike. Mike in trouble. Will be cleaned up before he can do much of anything. They are kind of cornered out. We're going to see the Lincoln's pop. BKB shown off from TC, though. Fiend's Grip goes through the Magic community. He is going to be static link. Pycat has to be careful. Will end up dead before he can put that damage to use. Now Misery on the run. Here comes Korok. Korok leaps ahead, eats a brain sap, doesn't matter. And we're going to see him nightmare himself, just trying to buy time. 1437 wants to chase Marana down. He's going to go after Korok, and he ducks out and will be able to channel it. And no! Oh, he did get away. The Shikuchi not enough to bring him down. The last death, the Dragon Knight, cleaning up the Beastmaster. And another one of those nutty fights. If that arrow had connected from Marana, that fight would have been so different. Instead, Liquid ends up losing 3-1 of LGD.
They drew out that fight way too long. Oh man, Misery might be going down here as well.
And got there to try and help, but the Lincoln's showing itself off. TC, okay, yeah, he's got time lapse. He says, that's fine, I got 2 lives. I got a green mushroom, how about you? But, yeah, still hanging around and thinking about is what he's doing. TC is it's easy to forget, you know, you don't see Midas on Weaver. He turns around and eats a wildkin. Just not something you see every day.
It is a bit unorthodox, yeah. Typically because Weaver is seen as a core hero who's very active during the early game. Actually very similar to Marana in this case. But yeah, he's got a Midas, but if you get it at 5 minutes, there's no reason not to in a lot of games. Because LGD.int's push potential isn't necessarily great, but at the same time, they do have the propensity to want to fight this game, so typically that's another reason why you wouldn't get a Midas, but TC's still making it work for him for Liquid in this game. I just kind of worry, actually, for LGD.int the later the game goes, because sooner or later that Weaver is going to become more or less immortal. It's going to be very tough to take him down in general, and he can actually go for a damage item now, because he has the 2 most defensive items in the game with the Lincolns and the BKB, and he's already got 1500 gold on top of that. So I feel as though LGD.int still want to be the aggressors here. There's 3200 gold on Pycat, he really needs another item. I don't necessarily know if he wants to go Manta here, but he has bought an Ultimate Orb. Maybe he'll just go Scotty. Maybe that's just a thing now. People are going to start buying Scotty again.
I'm okay with that. I always did like Scotty. I like the word Scotty. It makes me happy. But we can see...
Oh, he's going Hex.
Oh, very nice. That actually makes a ton of sense. If you're going to hex out the Weaver, static link him when he comes out, he's going to be worthless. That makes that actually makes a ridiculous amount of sense. But at the moment, LGD, given the run by the Roche pit, big boy wanders out to say hello. Says he doesn't want any, at least not today. TC, continuing to amass gold. He's up to 2400, can add a Demon Edge to his inventory, which will certainly help shore up some of his damage issues. Arrow shot will connect on Misery, but no way they're going to initiate off that. More of a scouting area, more of Arrow, more of a take a look in the dark kind of a dealie.
It's going to work out, though, because now LGD.int realize that they can just do a fake back and smoke. And if they catch out anybody on the side of Liquid, especially with that Hex now picked up on the Razor, it's going to be a pretty easy kill.
How about catch out the whole team? Here we go. Mike jumped on. There's a lasso as well. Plasma Field goes off. They're looking for the static link now. Can they find it? Weaver large and in charge going to town. And the BKB's up. Lincoln's has been popped. There's the Fiend's Grip onto him. The roar, though. Down on Pycat, and TC able to skitter away. God still going to town. Bulba has shot his wad, but he's going to end up dead as well. Buy back out on the Rubik. He wants to get back into the fight. Pycat still up and fighting. Finally did put some points into his ulti, so that should make Draskell happy. TC continuing to fight it out. Did use time lapse already. Lincoln's is active once again. There's the arrow. Dodged. However, TC trying to chase him down. DD picked up by Brax. 1437 right behind him. Gonna telekinesis to buy some time. God's up there on the high ground, and TC wisely gonna think twice. So in the end, another crazy fight gets strung out a while. And I honestly, that went on so long. I know there was a buyback on one side. I'm not sure if there was a buyback on the other, but more or less an even outcome.
1437 bought back, and he actually had time to walk all the way back to the fight, even though there's no tier 1 on their side of the map by the time it ended. Like, that's how long the fight lasted. There were some really cool coordination plays coming out from LGD.int there. For instance, when they originally initiated, there was a lasso onto the Beastmaster, And when they went in, they also straight away focused the Shadow Demon with a Dragon Tail because they wanted to make sure there was no counter roar for when they wanted to kill IX Mike. And then they killed him, and they wanted to go for TC, so they went for the Fiend's Grip into Static Link combo, but it got interrupted straight away too, so there was nothing in terms of damage that Pycat could do. And then he randomly chased around Fluff, which I didn't get. I thought it would have been a much more reasonable plan to just go help out the rest of his team, who was, I don't know, dying to the bug. But overall, it was still pretty good for LGD. They had to force a buyout, but they did recover the gem. That's a good thing. Like, G picked up the gem after Rubik died, so they didn't lose it.
Sacred Arrow comes up wanting. Nothing to be found. Both teams, once again, taking a breather. They've started to do this from time to time, realizing that it's hard, sweaty work. Amassing this many kills. It's actually, the funny thing is, it's like, it's actually catching up to the pace of normal, just because they have been taking so many breathers in between the big battles. But you take a look at the goal graph, 32 minutes in, plus 3,000 going the way of LGD.int. And really, that's not that much. Still a very close game by all respects. The experience is actually in triple digits, not quadruple digits, so very close in terms of levels. And LGD poking their nose around the Roche pit. Looks like they're not in the mood to try it quite yet. They are going to go ahead and just take a casual stroll through the... looks like they wanted to. Saw someone draw it on the map. That was actually Misery who drew it. Instead, they're going to go ahead and give the old loop around. Here we go. God going to allow his illusions to scout first. The Beastmaster Hawk got to look at things. And they're under cover of smoke. So they're going to go ahead and pull back while LGD gets into position. And this is just a case of Liquid trying to make sure they have the optimum angle for engagement, I would say.
Yeah, it's going to be hard, though. Like, the thing about Liquid's team is, if you don't catch them, their line of initiation is so good. Like, you have Beastmaster, you have arrows, you have Demonic Purge, Familiar Stunts. They can easily lock down somebody and kill them just straight away. However, if they don't get a good initiation, Pycat and G both have BKBs now. And even actually Brax has a BKB too, so it's triple BKB for them, which means that obviously the Mirana's damage is going to be pretty much halved because she's still at this point relying on Arrow and Starfall to be able to do any chunk of damage at all. And the same can be said for heroes like Visage and the Shadow Demons. So it's kind of rough right now for Liquid in terms of taking these fights. So even though TC is monstrously farmed still, it's not enough on his own yet to really push the team fights so far in his favor. But he is going for Radiance, which I think is a decent choice here, just because of the fact that he's not dying ever in the team fights. He's just getting the Radiance burn damage off the entire time. He's Shikuchiing in and out, being a general nuisance. So I think it's probably one of the better choices that he could have made. And plus, if the game does stretch on, which you said earlier, probably think it will, I'm inclined to agree with that. It makes it so his farm is going to go a bit faster than maybe going something like an MKB or a Deso.
Now, looking ahead to the late game, which, you know, again, my inclination is just to say that even as it's been so far, the execution on both sides has been, it's been a little raucous, but has certainly been there. I wouldn't call the execution tight. I would call it just very frantic, but very coordinated. And Liquid might be jumped here. LGD's thinking about it. I was going to say, if Brax takes the flight, he's got his BKB. Nope, not going to take a shot at it yet. Just, again, keeping an eye on the Roche pit. But if this game ends up going late, I look at the lineups, I'm pretty inclined to favor LGD International, because you're going to have a DK that's going to eventually catch up. Lasso never gets bad, neither does Static Link. And then you're going to have Fiend's Grip, another ability that never gets bad. And you still have Rubik, whereas with Liquid, you're going to start to see the usage of some things really start to wax off, like Visage. Visage, as good as the hero is, and as good as Familiars are, he just is not as good at 50 minutes as he is at 20 minutes. And, you know, Mirana, as much as she can carry, and so can the Weaver, they've got answers for both of those heroes, being able to hold them in place or sap their damage or both at the same time. So there's going to come a point I would expect where Liquid might start to feel a sense of urgency. Right now is not the time, as they continue to just kind of dart in and dart out and yeah, just show the flag and then withdraw it before the flag gets tattered. But LGD, I think they should feel pretty comfortable taking this late if they want to.
Yeah, I don't think they mind at all, honestly. It's funny because LGD are playing the aggressors when Liquid had a pretty significant lead for quite some time. And they've just slowly but surely taken it away from them. Now they're trying to position for the Roshan fight. And if they can get some kind of map control, get the vision up, and prevent Liquid from getting out of their base for long enough to get Roshan, they could potentially just go for the base. Because right now, Liquid have no towers left.
Yep.
And LGD have all three of their tier 2 still standing,
yep,
which is pretty impressive considering how hectic this game has actually been. So
honestly, positional advantage, got to give it to LGD. They're barely ahead in experience and gold. It's very negligible at this stage. But positioning means a lot, especially as the game gets later. Heroes are dead for longer. You have higher impact when those heroes are dead because you have more farm. And of course, things like Roshan can be pretty decisive in these kinds of situations. So they're going to try to force a movement out of Liquid. And they might use this to just back in Roshan, or they might just use it to force a fight.
Banging away on the tier 3, they are going to force the glyph. Liquid going to look for up. Looks like it connected on Brax of all people. They can get in there and blow him up. Nope, Force Staff going to get him out of trouble. There's a nice telekinesis. Used to lock Korok down, and the Dragon Tail followed up. Let's see if they can get Korok, who's been enfeebled. Nice disruption from Mike. Keeps Korok alive a little bit longer. They're going to be able to track down God, who drops the Gem of True Sight. They're going to pursue this out, and Misery next on the list. As LGD biting off a bit more than they can chew. Ends up giving away a couple. TC's not done yet either. Well, looks like, yeah, it had enough of chasing Pycat. Pycat's not a fun one to chase when he has Static Link up, and he certainly did. But attempting to force a fight, they managed to do so. Korok, by the way, lived there because of a very clutch disruption coming out of IX Mine.
Yeah, it was very well played by him, but that's the difference between when LGD gets the initiation they want and when they don't. He got arrowed in the face when the Batrider was trying to go up to look for a lasso. When that happens, LGD inherently lose so much momentum in the fight because they can't isolate heroes like IX Mike on that Shadow Demon, and they certainly can't get Bulba. So when you get arrowed and you have to force staff out, that means you have no way of actually getting back into the fight to lasso anybody and pulling them out of position, which gives Liquid a gigantic advantage in terms of being able to just walk into you and start the fight. Because their straight-up fighting is better than LGD.int, but LGD.int has the initiation advantage. And Pycat, you have overstayed your welcome a tiny bit here, my friend.
Nope, unable to catch him. They had the personnel, they just didn't have the tools. Manages to make it away. And LGD holding it together. The gold has actually crossed back in favor of Liquid. And it's been a very up and down game to put it mildly. And the experience well in favor of Team Liquid now. LGD gonna go ahead and smoke up. Just take off a running. And looks like they want to go ahead and try to push this top lane. Nope, never mind. They dinged it. Thought maybe they were going to try to push and force a reaction and out of TC, or excuse me, out of Liquid again. But so far, neither team really able to find an edge, and it's the same story on both sides, really. I mean, it just all comes down to who is able to land their single target abilities. That's really all it is. They have a lot of utility on both sides. It's who gets the, you know, it's so simple to say, well, who gets the jump on who, but it's actually more than that. It literally is, does your Batrider get hit first, or does he hit somebody else first? Like, it's that very often is deciding whether these chains of initiation are reaching completion.
More or less. And that's why it's really stressful in these situations, because when you're the initiator, and you know it's your job to actually just win your team the fight flat out, that puts a lot of pressure on that person, and sometimes you make mistakes. And honestly, Brax has been playing really well most of the game. He's been finding the picks that he's looking for. He almost always is able to get IX Mike. And the one time he doesn't, they lose a fight, and it just happens to be at a stage in the game where the fights are much more impactful. So it is kind of a bummer that it ended up happening that way, but honestly, I'm not entirely sure what Liquid are going to be able to do with this Aegis until TC gets maybe another item. He could probably sell his Hand of Midas and go for an MKB soon. I think he needs like another, what is it, like 200-300 gold or so? And he could probably do that. And then he might feel like he does enough damage to maybe just go for a push.
Picking up that Radiance certainly allows them to, you know, and we've seen them do it all day long. Or all game long, I should say. Extending these fights. And that's something their team's excellent at, by the way. I mean, Weaver is just impossible to track down. Same story with Mirana in most cases. Shadow Demon's ability to save a hero and allow them to continue in the fight. Visage is almost always going to be... Visage is basically long-range artillery that always wants to be away from the fight if he can help it. And Beastmaster, just a good reset button who tends to end up pretty tanky. And with the mechanism and the scepter, 1600 health. You know, this is a lineup from Liquid that very easily can extend these fights much easier than LGD.int can. That's probably one weakness they have. So the pickup of the Radiance on Weaver, not just for the base damage that comes with it, but the burn makes a ton of sense to me, especially given the BKB what we see is only on one hero, and that's the DK. Oh, check that. I forgot Pycat had one. Nonetheless, the durations on them have been getting pretty low lately. So certainly a lot of opportunities to extend these out and just melt down those supports.
Yeah, I also enjoy the Radiance choice quite a bit on him, but
What item did he just buy? I just want to. Oh, he's going Butterfly. Okay, so he's going for the mix of damage and survivability, whereas Liquid are kind of just chilling out here on the other side of the map, just sitting in the woods, waiting for somebody to potentially farm that creep wave. And Pycat could be that guy, which would be very, very bad. But he's going to see the Visage Familiars and probably just go into, oh, I should probably not go up there mode, which is the right call.
Nope.
Or he'll go up there.
Now he's going to be stunned, and they're not coming out, actually. They're trying to bait this out even more. And just trying to act like it was a familiar trying to take passive farm. He may have seen the Hawk there. If he saw the Hawk, he has to know. Yeah, I think he saw the Hawk there. So, Liquid giving themselves away a little bit too much. A lot of wasted time just sitting there hanging out. But really just buying time for TC to get his farm on. And, you know, again, these extended periods of downtime. Looks like it is going to be an Assault QS, by the way, coming out on G. But these extended periods of downtime, I can't help but think actually favor LGD International. I really just like... I love Liquid's lineup and the way that they're playing this out, but as the game gets later, I worry so much just for the true carry potential when you have this many answers to single targets on the side of LGD.int. I just really, really do.
Well, that is true, but Liquid right now do have a distinct advantage in terms of the now. In terms of, we have an Aegis, we got the Butterfly and the Weaver. There's still about 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes left on it. They really need to force this.
Yeah.
Like, if they want to make a big dent in the game, then they have to go for it. But they're just simply not going to do it. They're not willing to commit. So they're going to back up. They're going to just farm the creep wave, bottom lane, counter push, etc. Go for more farm, draw the game out more. It's dangerous to do this, because even if technically your team is better late game on paper, which Liquid's isn't even better,
yep,
you also run the risk of still losing a fight and then just losing a set of racks or two,
right,
because you let the game go to 50 minutes or 55 minutes when buybacks are ridiculously expensive and you might not have enough in the tank to finish the fight. So when games get to this stage, it's crucial that the next fight that you take is perfectly executed and it's for the right reasons. So I think they're probably just going to wait out another Roshan, because at this stage, why not? And this game matters a lot to both of these teams. So both of them want to win it pretty badly.
Another point worth making is their farming efficiency is not going to be all that LGDs can be, for the simple reason that they lack towers. And this is coming around to your point. You know, whenever you pull back to your own side, you need to stay safe. You don't want to just have your main carry like a TC just out by himself. So you're going to be grouping up more. That's going to hurt your support's gold gain. It's going to support or hurt their experience gain and so on. But without towers, it gets especially bad. And what that allows LGD to do, and again, back to your point about racks, it allows them, when they want to feel much more confident moving on to the enemy side of the map, not just because there's no towers that they have to worry about, but because there's so much blank space. There's just, and you know by definition, Liquid is going to be running together. So if you're looking for a fight, it creates that situation, like you said, where if you're Team Liquid and you lose a fight on your side of the river, so long as LGD is smart enough to do what they're doing now, which is push out at least one, if not two lanes before they cross over, you could very easily, like you said, just have it slip away by virtue of one screw-up, one arrow that doesn't connect, one Weaver time-lapse that doesn't really go off when you want it to, or what have you. But anyway, Liquid actually going to flip the script a little bit as I'm haranguing about it. Instead, they're going to go on into the enemy jungle while LGD does the same damn thing.
Yeah, but the nice thing about Liquid's movement is that they're guaranteed to get something out of it, whereas LGD have to walk all the way to the base. There's no tier 2 for them to push, whereas Liquid can push into the tier 2 bottom and get some free gold. So that gives them even a little bit more of an edge here for the time being, and they're going to have plenty of time to TP back and defend. And the Aegis is now gone, but they have buyback on the Weaver. Actually, everyone in the freaking game has buyback except for the supports. So the Rubik, the Bane, and the Shadow Demon do not have buybacks, but everyone else does.
I believe this is definitely an example of a game where Liquid realizes, hey, we won game 1. We win game 2, we really have a chance to go into the winner's bracket. Like, a really, really good chance. And LGD, again, their only chance to have any hope, as much help as they would need, resting entirely. Up, down at bottom, looks like we will have an engagement. We are going to have Korok managing to kill off Razor. And we'll see what Liquid wants to do with it. Obviously, Roche back up. Before too terribly long, we're talking about 2 minutes, give or take. So that Razor should be joining us once again, but at least gives them some room to. You know, and this, back to your same point, now that they're playing a little bit more aggressive, they're positioned in very good position on LGD's side of the map, and if LGD gets caught out, they could just end up losing racks, let alone their last remaining outer tier tower, which is frankly, just melting like all hell at this point because Weaver finally got those big items he's been looking for, and they're going to leap and go for it. Force Staff tries to get him back up. One more auto attack will do it, and they're going to lose him. 1437's down. He's down for 54 seconds. That's a huge loss. Now with the push power of Korok and TC and no Razor to sap away any of that damage, the creep wave, all that's really keeping them from running up right now. Now they might get Misery. There's the roar. Misery way out of position. What in the hell was he doing that far out? With no support, they're going to glyph it, but there's no way they're going to be back in fighting shape in time. TC, disrupted just for the illusions. Down goes to tier 3. Are they going to sell out? They will. Moving on now to the racks. It just utterly melts. They've waited too long. LGD letting Liquid hit their stride. And that's going to be a butterfly done on Korok now as well. And really, I can't help but feel like they fed those racks. There was just no reason for those heroes to be as close as they were. A well-shot arrow by Korok started the chain of events. Razor picked off in bottom, then Rubik dead to an arrow, and then Bane just wandering around in no man's land in front of the tier 3. And that is absolutely devastating for this international squad.
Yeah, now it's to the point where Liquid don't have a small advantage, they have a huge one. Especially considering how much you get for pushing into the base like that. I mean, even the Visage is sitting on 3,600 gold.
Yep.
He could finish his Ags right now if he wanted to. But I don't know if he will. He might just be safe at the buyback. And I want to say something really quick about that push is Bulba used his Hawk to teleport inside of LGD in space just to get on a good side to roar. Like, that was some seriously next-level way to use Boots of Travel. Like, normally you would just casually blink up and do it.
Right.
But he's like, nah, I'm going to use my Boots of Travel cooldown. It's only 60 seconds. I'm going to teleport to my Hawk and get the guaranteed roar on the Bane. And it worked out. So, smoke up here from LGD. But they had to have known that Rosh was alive. So, Liquid's kind of hovering around there at the moment. And if they get this Roshan with the DD on the Mirana, which I figured they would go for, but they're kind of not. I guess it's kind of obvious that LGD.int are on the move because they're pinging it right now. They're like, yeah, the creep wave's here.
Yeah.
They know we're not there. It's obvious that we're around looking for a fight.
Right. Speaking of Blink, Bulba did just finish his Blink Dagger. So you see, he did something cool out of necessity. That's always the best way to do something cool because you need to. That's why. But the kill score getting close again. We're talking 55 and 48, 23 to 22, and Liquid gonna go on the warpath using the Mirana ult, running to look, and you know, these two teams just have such a sixth sense for each other. They really do. This is about, you know, how many times have we seen this game? Now, obviously they're conceding Roshan. Nope, never mind. They're pinging it, but they're not gonna get there in time. Armor reduction plus how hard Weaver and Mirana are hitting. At the moment they decided to run back to the base, they had to know they were conceding Roshan. They had to know. And now TC going to move up. Looked like he was going to poke his nose up. Something I was thinking about, this Radiance actually does it is of a very high value. It puts the Blink Dagger on cooldown. Putting the Blink Dagger on cooldown for Bad Rider is actually a really big deal if you can do it. He's got a Force Staff, but once he forces in, he can only just, you know, casually walk you back out if he's not blinking in it. So the Weaver being able to get his chin out in front, rely on his own innate survivability, and maybe try to just get one burn tick on that bat. And nope, not going to happen this time. He actually blunked through the arrow. Very sick play there. And Korok loses the Aegis. TC is going to pursue it out. And there's Bulba with a roar. 1437 melted down completely. They are going to get the static link on TC, though he's losing so much damage. Finally, it's broken. God ends up dead. Pycat now next on the list. The single target DPS is just way too large. Way too large. And the arrow going to be shot wide. But really, it doesn't matter. They've got a decent little creep wave already pushing down Mike and his 300 HP. Got to try to make it happen. They're just going to call it. So LGD falls for 2 games in a row, and Team Liquid, the pride of North America, one of the prides of North America involved in the international at the very least, has put themselves in a phenomenal position, downing yet another Eastern squad and giving themselves a real opportunity with, I think, you know, again, you've got it in front of you, Draskell, so I'll let you break it down. But if they're able, if I would imagine if they're able to at least split their series tomorrow, that should give them or guarantee them an upper bracket berth.
Yeah, right now they're sitting at 7 wins, which Tongfu and IG are both sitting at 6, and LGD is below that at 4. So right now, Liquid and Tongfu are both in the top 4, tied with IG for the same spot. But now that Liquid have won that, they're one step ahead. So actually, if they even split, and Tongfu or IG win both their games, they're still in the upper bracket.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It sounds to me they may have already just more or less mathematically locked it. I mean, it comes down to you have to look at who's playing who and what the matchups are going to be. But nonetheless, a great performance, a very long game. That was one of the weirdest. It's rare you see games shift gears like that because we finished up with less than 50 kills in a 50-minute game when at one point we had double-digit kills and we were averaging a kill every 10 seconds. It is just so rare to have the game shift gears like that. But in the end, one of the more cerebral games I've had a chance to cast in a long time. And tell you what, man, to the best of my knowledge, I guess I probably should check, but pretty sure that's our last scheduled game and 2 long days of Dota, but man, have they been good.
They have definitely been good, and I just want to point out really quick that Liquid actually plays IG tomorrow. I just had to open up the caster schedule to double check. So that game is actually going to decide which one of those teams makes it in. If they split against IG and they go 1-1, they will still make it into the upper bracket unless Tongfu beats Rattlesnake 2 games in a row, in which case, if that happens, IG are actually in the bottom 4 because Liquid will end at 8 wins, Tongfu will be at 8, and then IG will only be at 7. So IG actually have a chance to not even make it into the top 4 in this group.
Amazing. Utterly amazing. The defending champions coming out of this group, and who would have thought a year ago, looking at the way the international panned out with the top 8 and so on and so forth, who would have thought that a North American squad would be looking to shove the defending international champions down into the lower bracket, which very well could happen. Well, my friend, again, we're all done so. Well, no, actually, we're not. We've got, what, 1 series tomorrow, I think, is how it's going to go. Every caster.
2 series.
2 series tomorrow, that's right.
Yeah.
So, looking ahead, we're going to have Dignitas versus Fnatic, and, hey, we get to cast the Tongfu versus Rattlesnake game, or series. So that's going to mean that we're going to at least have a bird's eye view into how that's going to work out, at least from half of it. It'll be Beyond the Summit, casting Liquid versus IG, so make sure you tune in for that. And we'll have Join Dota Toby, casting MUFC versus Zenith and VP versus LGD.int, and then the lovely Miss Sheaver, handling DK versus Mouse and Orange versus